A woman scorned, her face twisted in agony, forever haunting the man who betrayed her. A servant, falsely accused, cast into a well, her sorrowful whispers echoing through the night. And a bride, waiting endlessly in the snow, for the love that never returned. These are the whispers of Japan's most tragic spirits, but among the countless stories of vengeance and sorrow, one remains untold. Until now. The world of the living and the world of the dead. In Japanese folklore, the two are not so far apart. When a soul departs, it is believed to journey into the afterlife, but some spirits never leave. These are the Yurei, restless ghosts unable to pass on due to rage, sorrow, or unfinished business. Rooted in Shinto and Buddhist beliefs, Yurei appear as pale figures dressed in white funeral robes, their long black hair falling over sorrowful or vengeful faces. Unlike fleeting spirits, they linger. They remain bound to the place of their suffering, forever repeating their grief. Some are vengeful, returning to torment those who wronged them. These are the Onryo, horrifying and dangerous. Others are merely trapped, repeating their last moments, whispering their sorrow into the wind. But every tale has one thing in common. Once a Yurei appears, it does not leave until its suffering is acknowledged or avenged. Today I will tell you two classical and revered Yurei tales passed down through the ages in Japanese folklore, and one that has remained obscured until now. Our first story recounts events that took place centuries ago in the Yotsuya district of Edo that continue to echo in modern Tokyo today. Oiwa was the loyal and devoted wife of a ronin. She loved her husband, Yemon, with all her heart, but his heart had turned elsewhere. Yemon wished to marry another, a woman of wealth named Ume. He was driven by greed and a desire to rise in station. But there was a problem. Ume believed she was not as beautiful as Oiwa, and Oiwa was in the way. And so she poisoned her, mixing a diabolical substance into her face cream to destroy her beauty. Although the poison did not kill her, it disfigured her face, warping it into something unrecognizable. Her once gentle features twisted, her eye drooping, her skin melting like wax. When she saw herself in a mirror, she tried to comb her hair over her face to hide the horrible disfigurement. But to her shock and horror, her once beautiful hair came out in bloody patches and fell onto the floor. Overcome with pain and betrayal, she died in horrific agony, her throat pierced by a razor-sharp blade. With her last gurgling breaths, she cursed her husband's name. But death was not the end. Overjoyed at the death of his wife, Yemon swiftly married Ume. That very night, Yemon began to see Oiwa. Her reflection loomed in lanterns, her single bloodshot eye staring back at him. Her whispers crawled into his ears, haunting his dreams, twisting his sanity. Oiwa had become Onryo, a Yurei animated by vengeance. Her burning passion for revenge had bridged the void between earth and the spirit world. As the weeks passed, relentlessly Oiwa tormented her husband, until one night, waking in a fit of terror, he drew his blade and struck at her image, only to find that tragically he had murdered his new bride instead. Driven mad with shame and fear, he fled to the mountains, trying to escape the vengeful Oiwa. Sadly, for the unfortunate ronin, there was no escape. No longer able to separate dream from reality, he took his own life. Even now, it is said, Oiwa's face appears in reflections, waiting, watching, haunting those who dare betray a lover's trust. Sometimes, as the wind howls outside, a voice seems to whisper in the dark, waiting, longing. But for what? Turning the page, we come to the classic legend of Okiku. In the grand halls of the White Heron Castle in Himeji, a servant girl named Okiku worked tirelessly, washing dishes in the kitchens. She was known for her beauty, her grace, and for catching the eye of her master, a samurai of the court. But Okiku was not his to take. The samurai, infatuated, continued to stalk her, but at every advance she rejected him. Finally, growing impatient, he devised a cruel trick to ensnare her. He would blackmail her until she would be forced to become his lover. The samurai hid one of 10 priceless plates belonging to the lord of the manor, and falsely accused Okiku of breaking it, a crime punishable by death. Though she pleaded her innocence, he did not listen. In a frenzy, Okiku ran to the cupboard where the plates were stored. She counted the plates over and over, frantic and consumed with worry, but the missing plate was not to be found. It was then her master sprung his trap. He offered to overlook her crime if she would finally submit and become his lover. Still, she rejected him. Enraged, the obsessed samurai had her bound and dragged to the well. There, he suspended her over the cold, dark pit, torturing her and demanding that she become his mistress. She suffered in innocence, refusing until, no longer able to control his fury, he slashed her with his sword and dropped her frail body into the void. From that night on, the whispers began. Ichi, ni, san. Every night, the sound of counting filled the halls, a ghostly voice moving through the darkness like a cold draught. Shichi, hachi, kyu. But it never reached 10. The samurai, unable to cope with the terrifying whispers of the vengeful Yurei, fled his home, leaving the spirit of Okiku forever counting, searching for the plate that was never broken. Even today it is said that if you count aloud to 9 near a well, Okiku's voice will whisper the final number. And sometimes, if the wind is just right, a second whisper follows, one that does not count, but calls a name. These have been tales that were remembered. What about the ones forgotten? A name lost to time, a shrine abandoned, a story waiting to be told. We now come to a story long forgotten and left untold. In a village nestled deep in the mountains, there lived a woman named Chiyo. She was young, hopeful, and in love with a traveling merchant. One summer day, as he prepared to continue on his journey, he had promised her. "Wait for me," he said. "Before the first snow I will return." And so she waited, sitting near a small shrine by the road. Daily she watched for any sign of her beloved. As summer gave way to fall and fall waned toward winter, his words echoed in her mind like a chant. "Before the first snow I will return." Every day she would go to the shrine, hoping to catch the first glimpse of her beloved returning, but each time the road seemed empty. The faces she saw were strangers, and each one who passed stole a little more of her hope. "Have you seen him?" she asked a passing merchant. He did not stop. Another came, and she asked again, but his steps quickened. With each passing day, her hope gradually twisted into resentment. How could these travelers pass by so freely, uncaring, without a thought to her longing and suffering? Doubts and feelings of abandonment weighed heavy on her spirit as she sat alone by the roadside. A smouldering anger began to rise, slowly overtaking her mind. Why had he not returned? The echoes of her lover's promise faded and were replaced by thoughts of vengeance. If he does not return, let all who pass suffer as I have suffered. Let them know what it is to wait forever. One night, Chiyo did not wake. The villagers found her frozen in a blanket of the first snow, lips parted as if whispering into the wind. Now, travelers who pass near the shrine hear a voice on the wind, asking, "Have you seen him?" But if you answer, misfortune will follow. And if you are a merchant, one of those who journey far and return late, you will not return at all. Yurei stories endure because they are more than just legends. They are echoes of human sorrow, betrayal, and longing, intimately entwined with Japanese culture. But not every ghost gets remembered. What other lost tales are still waiting to be heard? Which Yurei story haunts you the most? Tell us in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and let us know. We're just getting started, so consider subscribing for more interesting folklore from across the world. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time.